Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome back to World of Tanks, the mighty Jingles. Two clips for you today. This first one, submitted by Play With Me here in the Super Hellcat, although it's not about him. His Super Hellcat is destined to go to that great scrapyard in the sky. And he's probably been the best player on his team thus far, but it wasn't so much that his team were terrible, it's just that the enemy team were that little bit better. This was actually a reasonably close fight. This wasn't the usual case in a World of Tanks random battle where one team utterly crushes the other one in just a couple of minutes. Right up until the point where it all started going horribly, horribly wrong, either team could have won this. And this is more or less the point where it all starts going horribly, horribly wrong. It doesn't actually look that bad for his platoon mate here in the King Tiger C. There is an SU-100M1 to the rear that should be giving him some kind of support fire against the KV-2 and the OI. He's certainly getting all the support from the team's artillery, but nothing from the SU-100M1. Don't worry, we'll find out why in a moment. But now, sadly, Mr. Rez here is well and truly cooked. Still, 4 against 7, I've seen worse odds, except it isn't really 4 against 7. It's 3 against 7, because that's the SU-100M1. Note the A43 over there. He's actually gone down there looking for the Tiger that you can see, or can't see on the minimap. You'll see him in a second. I don't know how the A43 managed to drive around there and miss something the size of a Tiger tank, but well, he found a way. He's running at the T-78, the Tiger pops up, and kills him. So now it's basically 2 artillery against 7 enemy tanks. Because let's face it, the SU-100M1 isn't going to be doing anything useful anytime soon. Having dealt with the A43, the Tiger reappears, and that's extremely bad news for the Crusader SP. Almost dies to enemy artillery. Oh, looks like the SU-100M1 has found some enemy tanks. On the bright side, he has at least spotted them for arty. And he was able to get a shot off, but well, he's dead too, as is the Crusader SP, and that just leaves the Geschützwagen Panther against 7 enemies. The thing is, there's less than a minute of this game remaining, and they're trying to win by capping, or at least one of them is. But with only 31 seconds remaining, it's going to take more than one. Of course, it doesn't help that 2 of the remaining enemy tanks are a KV-2 and an OI, neither of which are renowned for their speed. But the T-78 is, and the Tiger isn't exactly slow. I suspect the T-78 is the one in the cap circle, and with 10 seconds to go he's been joined by somebody, but it's a definite case of way too little, way too late. If the Tiger had got into the cap circle too, they might have pulled this off, but notice that the Tiger is on 5 kills. Yep, he wanted that Top Gun. And it not only cost his team the win, but it also gifted a Kolobanov's medal to the GW Panther. Now, we've all seen those World of Tanks battles on YouTube where somebody in a top tier Russian medium or the latest overpowered flavour of the month premium heavy tank utterly ruffle stomps the opposition, and the comments section is always the same. Well, anybody could get 73 kills and do 100,000 damage in that kind of tank with that kind of matchmaking, firing nothing but gold ammunition, Jingles. Okay, fair enough. How about if you're not top tier, you are in fact bottom tier, a tier 7 in a tier 9 match? How about if you're not in a fast Russian medium, or the latest flavour of the month overpowered premium heavy? How about if you're in a Black Prince? A tank with a top speed of a whole 20 kilometers per hour, with the worst alpha damage and penetration amongst all tier 7 heavy tanks. To make matters worse, usually when this is the case, when you have a tank that has a gun with lousy penetration and very poor alpha damage, it tends to get a good rate of fire and high damage per minute in order to compensate, but the Black Prince doesn't even get that. It's got the second worst damage per minute of all tier 7 heavy tanks as well. It's just not fair. What can you say about this thing that's good? Well, the engine has a lot of torque, so it's pretty good at getting up hills. No, that's it. I'm running out of things to say. Let's check the official World of Tanks wiki page and see what the pros of the Churchill Black Prince are. Low tiers will struggle against the armour. He's in a tier 9 battle. Tracks absorb a lot of damage. Side scraping can be effective. You know they're getting desperate when these are the best things that they can say about a tank. Incoming, whose replay this is, said the following in the opening line of the email that contained this replay file, and I quote, "This tank sucks. A lot." He's not wrong. By the time you get the Black Prince fully upgraded to this level of utter mediocrity, you have had to play a stock Black Prince for long enough to make most people lose their will to live. And then once you've got this thing fully upgraded, you only have the Carnarvon to look forward to. The Carnarvon can be thought of as a Black Prince with a marginally better gun, better speed, but none of the armour. Well, okay, that's not completely fair. The 32 pounder that you get, or can get, on the Carnarvon isn't just marginally better, it is a lot better. It's got very high damage per minute. It's still low alpha damage though, even though it's improved over the 17 pounder. You're still doing the kind of damage per hit that pretty much everybody else gets to do in their heavy tanks 2 tiers lower at tier 6. And for some bizarre reason, the ammunition cost is exponentially higher than on the 17 pounder. It's difficult to make a profit in the Carnarvon. But the Carnarvon's a story for a different day. We're stuck down here at tier 7 in the god-awful Churchill Black Prince. And the team are doing reasonably well, without much help from incoming thus far. I mean, okay, he's now in a position where he can actually do some good. Putting some shots into the E75 there. Well, a shot. Technically he did put 2 shots, but one of them merely blew his tracks off and didn't actually go through and do any damage. Now there's somebody over... Oh, there it is. It's an ISU-15... No, not an ISU, sorry, an SU-152. And it doesn't look like he's using the derp gun. Then again, with the changes to high explosive shells, I think you've probably seen more SU-152 players using one of the 122mm gun options instead. And the SU-152 does get frighteningly high damage per minute if it uses that gun. It gets a very, very good rate of fire. Of course, the accuracy sucks, and 175mm of penetration is laughable in a tier 9 battle like this. Of course, that is 4mm better penetration than the Black Prince has on this gun. And the SU-152 does more than twice the damage per hit and fires almost as quickly. Yep, 390 damage bounce. That's probably the 122mm D25S Mod 44. Good gun. Better gun than the Black Prince has. Just not a very good gun in a tier 9 battle like this one. It's at about this point where incoming realises that the T10, which, let me remind you, is a tier 9 heavy tank, is using his Black Prince as cover. Yes, he's hiding behind the tier 7s. This is the point where incoming tells him in chat, look, just... it's only an SU, get up there and kill it. Suitably embarrassed in front of his peers, the T10 drives off to do just that. Incoming, realising there's no way the T10's ever going to lose that fight. Well, there's no way the T10 should ever lose that fight. Doesn't bother driving up there until the T10 starts losing the fight. And yeah, that's something that actually happened. At this point, up until this point at least, the team have been winning this battle quite handily. They're still 2 kills ahead. And incoming hasn't really done an awful lot. I mean, he hasn't even done 1,000 damage yet, although his armour has been holding up quite well. He's even bounced a couple of gold shells. But this is looking like it's going to turn into a fairly typical Black Prince battle, where you just spend the entire game struggling to catch up to the action because you're so goddamn slow. In fact, it's Sad but true, but Black Prince commanders often only really find themselves in the thick of the action when they're the last one left alive on their team. To be fair, incoming is bouncing an awful lot of gold. And he's also, well, he's driving the Black Prince probably the best way he can. Well, congratulations, you've scored a kill. You have to drive the Black Prince slowly and deliberately. Well, you have to drive it slowly because slow's all it can do, but you get what I mean. It's like playing a battleship in World of Warships. You have to think well in advance about where you're going, what you're going to do when you get there, if anything, and if it all goes horribly wrong, and it usually will, what your options are for getting out afterwards. And you have to keep recalculating that on the fly as events unfold around you. And incoming had, at least up until this point, been angling remarkably well. Because, well, like the Tiger, the Black Prince and all of the Churchills are just big, boxy bricks of a tank. And the frontal armour, especially in a Tier 9 battle, only has a chance of working if you angle it. He did get zapped by the GSOR. He was hiding somewhere behind what remains of the KV-3. That thing has the L7 105mm gun, doesn't it? With 226mm of penetration and he's slinging gold around. Well, it's a Tier 9 battle. He probably needs the gold to deal with all those Tier 9 heavy tanks. All those dead Tier 9 heavy tanks. Oh, things are not going well all of a sudden. The enemy team have equalised. Although the amount of hit points available to each team is still more or less the same. There are a couple of tanks on low health that are looking like easy kills. Like that one. Yep, there we go. Remember the #1 rule of World of Tanks. Shoot at the tanks that you can kill. That seems kind of obvious, Jingles. It does, doesn't it? The key word being seems kind of obvious. We'll come back to that subject in a moment, because for now things just got interesting. Yep, it's the GSOR. He's still spamming gold. Meanwhile, the T-25-2, with substantially worse penetration, even if he was firing gold, which he isn't, is actually scoring damage with every shot that he fires. Gee, it's almost as if knowing what you're doing is better than just rolling your face all over the 2 key. He's got incoming down to 4 health. A timely intercept there from artillery disables the T-25-2 and allows incoming to kill him. Note, 0 support whatsoever from the Super Hellcat over here, who has in fact gone AFK, presumably because he didn't think much of the matchmaking. Note that the GSOR ran off and abandoned the T-25-2 to his fate in order to reload. He's run out of ideas, but he hasn't run out of gold. You know, it might make me a bad person to admit to this, but it does make me laugh when you see somebody who clearly has no clue where to aim, just trying to buy their way out of trouble by rolling their face all over their 2 key. I mean, the T-25-2 has a worse gun, even before you start using gold ammo, and he didn't use gold ammo and still managed to do damage. The ironic thing here is if that GSOR had anything other than a 100% gold loadout, if he just had one reload of high explosive, he'd have won this game by now. Or, you know, he could have just learned how to play. Oh well, too late for that. But I do just love watching people trying to buy their way out of trouble and failing miserably at it. And yes, that probably makes me a bad person, but no, I really don't care. So, it's 4 against 1. Well, it's 3 against 1. The Super Hellcat quit because he didn't like the matchmaking. You don't know that, Jingles. True, but you don't know that he didn't. So we'll just call it quits. Oh, yeah, it may be 3 against 1. The problem is that the 1 is an AE Phase 1 Tier 9 Premium Heavy Tank. You don't want to be fighting that unless you have to fight it. So, incoming and the Kanonen Jagdpanzer are trying to win by capping. I'm not sure they're going to get away with it. Gee, if only there was something fast on the team that could have gotten over here to help them win by capping. I mean, they got to 77% with just 2 of them before the Kanonen Jagdpanzer fluffed his shot and the Phase 1 killed him. I'm just saying, if the Super Hellcat hadn't thrown all of his toys out of the pram when he realised he was in a tier 9 battle, they'd have won by now. So now, 4 hit points worth of Black Prince, with artillery support, but without Super Hellcat support, has to deal with 794 hit points worth of tier 9 heavy AE Phase 1. Angle, son! 258mm of penetration. Aims for the thickest part of the tank's armour. Just load the high explosive. You have a 120mm gun. You'll do 4 damage. No, okay, never mind. Just give him the win. Ah, hell, he deserved it. Now, getting real here for a minute, I do understand, of course, that getting 7 kills and carrying the entire team in your Black Prince in a tier 9 battle is not actually that impressive, because you lot routinely take the Black Prince out, find yourselves bottom tier, and manage to do 30,000 damage and score 27 kills, but for some reason you always seem to forget to save the replay file and send it in, so bearing all of that in mind, until you lot remember to enable replay files every time you take the Black Prince into battle, Incoming's pathetic effort here is just going to have to do. I hope you enjoyed it, and as always, take care, stay safe, and I'll catch you next time.